Congratulations on getting that pole. I mean, you've done so many things over your career. One of the things you've not done is get the pole for the Daytona 500. I mean, what did that feel like? It's hard to experience new things at this point in your career.
Well, it is hard, but there was a lot of great optimism around everything coming in here, and going into practice and all the things that we did setting up for our pole run last night. Was Jim Pullman, new crew chief on board this year, gave a lot of confidence, and had some in himself about just being able to feel like the car would have the speed that it took to sit on the pole. So, I'm always kind of like, yeah, whatever, okay. I've heard that before from my crew chiefs in the past, but this one here, he lived up to it. So, really appreciate that and all the hard work from the guys, everybody at RCR and ECR Engines. Feels good to, start up front, and hopefully we can hold them off and win this thing on Sunday.
750 Cup starts, vet of the garage for the 500 specifically. For those starts have resulted in a fourth place finish. Does this year feel different with some newness with crew chief?
Not yet. No. I mean, I come down here every year. As a young kid, you come down here with this exuberance and optimism and everything that you're going to be the youngest winner of the Daytona 500 ever. And then when it doesn't happen, you just kind of settle into, hey, this race is just like any other race. We've got to come out here and race it. And, it's 500 miles. It's a long, long race, and anything can happen. You got to let it play out and sort of just make sure that you're doing the right moves and putting yourself in the right position at the right time when it matters most, and being there in the end.
And do you think the duel's a little bit more important with the new body, with the Chevy, to see how you guys kind of stack up, making runs on other manufacturers?
Yeah, I would think so. I think a little bit of it too is just checking the new body with how well we push against other manufacturers. Years past, the Chevy nose has been a little bit peaky, so it's been a little bit hard to kind of be aggressive in the pushing style. So they've kind of flattened that out a little bit to allow us to have the opportunity to push at the super speedways, and it's got a little bit less drag. So we've obviously proven that, we were pretty quick in qualifying, and now we get to see how it races.
Yeah, one last question for you. You've been racing the series for quite some time. Maybe truck start back in 2001. We're in 2026 now, and you've got a family. Would this mean more to win the 500 now versus say 10 years ago when your kids, it wasn't part of the picture?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would say if I won this race 15 years ago and then I'm winning it now, I would say, yeah, I feel like winning it now would be more important, having the family and Samantha and the kids especially being around, and Brexton being old enough now to appreciate it, and as he's racing in his own career, and so it would definitely be pretty special.
All right. Well, hey, you got a lot of people cheering you on. We wish you the best luck in your 21st try.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Always cool to hear from the Daytona 500 pole winner. And now we're bringing back Tyler from Echo Park Speedway. I don't want to, bring it up, but you're on deck. First, of course, we have to talk about the 500, and then we get to preview your wonderful race at the beginning of the year. First of all, how was your off season, and how are you doing?
I'm doing well. A pretty busy off season here. Always, going to be that way when you're second up after the Daytona 500, like we are here at Echo Park Speedway. But had a good break there around Christmas. Was able to recharge the batteries and go at it full speed here since we flipped into 2026, and we're kind of having that start off with the action on the track here too, between last week's clash and qualifying.
Yeah, how about the clash? I mean, I don't think I've ever seen vehicles on the track while it was actively sleeting before. So I know that NASCAR's kind of ready for that to be in the windshield with how many times they had to reschedule it and everything that went into that. But from a fan's perspective, that was at home in the warmth, it was definitely interesting.
Yeah, definitely one of those events that I think we'll be looking back on in 5 to 10 years from now and saying, boy, you remember that time that NASCAR raced in the sleet after waiting out 3 days of, once in a generation snowstorm in the Triad area of North Carolina. A lot of weird circumstances there. A very topsy-turvy race. Had a really hard, time getting a flow after the weather moved in, but capped off with Ryan Preece getting a very feel-good victory. He's had a long journey in NASCAR and has really struggled to get his footing in the Cup Series and really assert himself. And so I know that even though it won't go in the record books, is something that shows up as a glance since it wasn't a points race. I know that he's, and we saw that he was very happy to get a checkered flag at the highest level.
Hey, happy's one word for it, but I think it gives you some confidence, right? He's been close a few times, but also has been kind of kicked while he was down a few times as well. So you get a little taste of victory lane. You can do it. People congratulating him. I don't know a lot of people upset with that victory, and that's just what RFK needed going into this season. A little bit of momentum because kind of a bit of a down year last year. So it's going to be interesting to see how strong the Fords are, especially going up that new body against the Chevrolets.
Well, and when we look at Roush Fenway Keselowski racing as a whole, obviously Brad Keselowski is a champion of the sport and a very capable race car driver, even though last year was, very much riddled with, lows and, very poor finishes that outweighed the good days. And so really struggled to find that consistency. But on the other hand, Ryan Preece in the 60, and especially Chris Buescher in the 17 now for a few years going, consistency was the thing that they were able to lean on. And this year, as far as determining the championship goes and being eligible to race for the championship come the fall, consistency is going to have a big part of saying who ends up in that picture.
Sure. Yeah. And consistency is key. You wonder if people race a little differently now, especially when you get into stage racing at the end. Do people take less of a gamble, or do they need to make up points and maybe not go for a win, but they go for a points move? So these races this year will definitely be run different than if we were still in a win and you're in format. So I think that's one of the things I'm looking forward to. Just you probably give it a month, people feel themselves out, and then they're like, okay, well, now what? What do we have to do? So that's going to be fun to watch. And I got to see Zilich run, well, if you want to call it that, at the Rolex 24. And just the fact that he can be in so many different cars, just like AJ Allmendinger. I'm going to see if they are going to rise back up for road courses this year. We have one less with the Roval going away. I mean, there are just 10 different things we could talk about right now.
Yeah, a lot to see unfold this year. And we're obviously alluding to the fact that the winning you're in and playoff system has gone in the rearview mirror, and instead a version of the chase that longtime fans like you and I will remember, but maybe new to a lot of people listening. The chase is returning with some tweaks, but basically the top 16 drivers in the points after race 26 are going to get reset with some distance between them points wise based on seeding from first down to 16th. And then the final 10 races, whoever accumulates the most points in that bunch is going to be your champion. So no more winning to advance, no more winning to make it into that final 10 race stretch to the championship. So it'll be interesting to see as the months go on what that does change, especially at the end of the races, like you said. I think this weekend with Daytona, it's the Daytona 500. So everybody's going to be putting it all on the line, regardless of what the other stakes are, because you win the Daytona 500 and your name is etched into history, right? When we come here to Echo Park Speedway a week later, I think the nature of the racing really just invites people to make moves and, really the leaders vulnerable to the big runs that are generated here. So I don't know how much it'll really change here. Which is a good thing because we've had very fantastic shows here, so we don't want to see anything change here at Echo Park Speedway. But on down the line, when you get into May, June, July, and at the end of these races, when there's a checkered flag in front of you, what moves and what calculations do guys make when a win is worth a lot, but second does a lot for you too?
Right. I think maybe you see those do or die situations, fight or flight, kind of heightened. Maybe some people are like, you know what, I don't need to risk wrecking whenever I'm solidified in that top 16, or then there's somebody like, oh, well, I'm set outside in. I need these. So there's always a cutoff, and those are always fun to watch. I think the 500 is the 500. A hot take that I have is I always didn't enjoy the focal point to an extent after you talk to a Daytona 500 winner being then, well, you made the playoffs. They're like, okay, cool. Like you kind of expect to. Well, now, say you have a team that maybe isn't expected to make the playoffs, they win. It's going to be like, okay, well, now what are you going to do the next 25 points paying races? So I think that it gives whoever wins that race in their team a little bit more time to relish in that moment. You're a Daytona 500 winner, and you don't have to worry about those, playoff questions already, at least this early. So that's going to, Neither one of us is probably ever going to be on a team like that, but at least we don't have to, be the ones asking those questions.
Well, and I'll tell you from somebody who, works at an individual racetrack, and I go and help out with some of our sister tracks, right? But, I work at an individual racetrack, and, for me, the Auto Trader 400 that's coming up at Echo Park Speedway is as big an event as there can possibly be, right? But in part because, I'm biased because I put work into it. But, these are very big events that travel around the country. And I think having a little bit of time to stop and breathe and say, hey, here's what the winning team accomplished today. And then even on down the line, hey, here's what an underdog who managed to finish fourth, fifth, or sixth, whether it's here in Atlanta or over in Richmond or Martinsville, what have you, being able to celebrate, wow, they really, punched above their weight today. Maybe this is a sign of more things to come, rather than it being framed as a missed opportunity to win and change their season entirely. Being able to recognize the individual accomplishments along the way, I think is going to be something I appreciate.
Yeah, and honestly, all of those, I guess you could say, underdog wins. Yes, you got people into the playoffs, but then, it didn't amount to much. The cream still kind of rose up there, and you have your same players in the round of 8 and the championship 4. So it's cool to get it in there. And I'm not saying they were placeholders, but I do favor the more consistent, points value going into this year. So we'll see. I think it puts more value on every race versus less. And I think we've seen in the racing world, having a cumulative point championship versus one race is pretty standard. I think a lot of fans, you grew up with that or expected, especially in other series. So I think it's going to be a good thing. And it's all starting with the 500. So it's going to be cool to see what's to come. There's always surprises. You always have big names getting wrecked. You always have people you don't expect to get top fives. And I think that's what I look forward to most, is not the wrecks, but the surprises.
Yeah, and looking ahead to the fall, I think one of the things I'm most looking forward to with the return to the chase format here is that, there's a give and take with all systems and things to appreciate and, long for with whatever choice you make. But I'm really looking forward to when the green flag drops at Darlington all the way through Gateway, Bristol, on and on and on, that all of those races are going to matter equally for everybody who's in the chase and competing for that championship. Whereas in the elimination era, your top seeded drivers, really the first 3 races were just a matter of not stubbing your toe so hard that you managed to get knocked out. And then that second set of 3 races was, okay, I need to minimize any really bad days, but I don't need to excel. Now, over the course of those 10 races, you need to be excellent across all 10 to the best of your ability to have a chance to win the championship. And so I'm looking forward to seeing the best drivers of the year challenged to bring their very best performance over the course of a complete 10 weeks and not selectively throughout that fall stretch.
Yeah, hey, that makes a lot of sense, and I'm right there with you. So, lots to look forward to for sure. Of course, 500 is a big day, and then we get to go right into the following week and talk about you guys. I know we're still a little ways out. You're probably making those final touches. What do you guys have going on leading up to your big weekend?
Well, we're going to be inviting, campers onto the property starting on Monday. So we're just a few days away from having fans here at the track ready to, enjoy a week full of entertainment that we have on tap for people who are camping here or coming to join us for the individual race days, the doubleheader on Saturday, and the 400-mile Auto Trader 400 on Sunday. We're really just making sure that we don't dot all the I's and cross all the T's, because the last few years, we've really gotten a great formula of entertainment off the track to complement what has been an embarrassment of riches on the track from really exciting edge of your seat racing. So, like you said, we're dotting those I's, crossing those T's, getting those last preparations ready, because we got fans arriving here in just a few days. So very much looking forward to the Daytona 500, hoping that that's a really thrilling start to what will hopefully be a very thrilling 2026 season, and looking forward to following that up with our event here in Hampton, Georgia.
Yeah, and I think we can get past the 500, let it be what it is, and then next week hear more about what you guys have going on, as we are at race week officially in just a few days, and then maybe we start making some predictions as we get one race under our belt. I think that's fair to both of us, and then we can start talking about the future.
And so, as far as predictions go, then we need to look at the Daytona 500. We are coming off of back-to-back William Byron victories, with last lap cautions, or well, I should say last lap wrecks because they didn't throw the caution last year. But hey, last lap wrecks having a lot to say about that outcome each of the last 2 years. What do you think we're going to see at the end of this year's Daytona 500?
I think it'll finish under green without a wreck. And I think who
That's
leads
bold.
who leads the last one to go will win the race.
I think both of those are bold statements. Whoever's leading at the white flag is going to still be leading at the checkered flag, paired with we're going to have a green flag finish to the Daytona 500, something that we had last year, but it wasn't a clean green flag finish to the Daytona 500.
What happens when you combine the color green with yellow? I think that's the color flag we should have. But yeah, I don't know. Why not be bold? I don't have a name yet, but whoever it is, that's what I'm thinking, because I think everyone kind of behaves. Hopefully weather's not an issue. And then assuming, you have the same person that finishes first that took the white flag, that would mean that if it finishes under green, then everyone kind of played a little bit more nice behind you versus making those aggressive moves to pass. So for whatever reason, I just think that maybe it'll be a crazy race. You have more or less 20 to 25 cars at the end, but I think they will finish under green.
Well, I'll say that's what I'm rooting for, because I always like seeing green flag run to the checkered. And I think, especially if it's not happening with an overtime extension of the race and is instead a 10, 15, 20 lap build up to the finish, that really builds the anticipation and, adds some weight to all the moves that are happening at the end of the race, versus if it's an overtime finish, now it's really coming down to who's getting the right shove at the right time in that small sample size. So I'm rooting for that. It is what we saw as far as at least, getting to the checkered flag under green and without a wreck. What we saw the last time we were in Daytona with the regular season finale this past year, and they were 4 wide across the line. So definitely hope to see that. I'm trying to think of who I think is going to win this thing, and I feel like
Kyle
a broken
Busch might
record
get
every
it
year.
done.
But I was about to say, I want to say Kyle Busch, because he's been knocking on that door for so many years, and I vividly remember a couple years ago coming to like 2 or 3 laps to go, and there was a caution off of turn 4, and then all of a sudden it became one of those overtime sequences that didn't go his way. But I'm going to go with Kyle Busch to get back into victory lane for the first time in a couple of years and check off a big, accomplishment on his resume that is full of accomplishments, but missing this one.
Yeah, I might go a little different, and this one doesn't really make a lot of sense on paper. I think Briscoe can do it. I don't know why. The name just kind of came to me. I don't know if it's because his car's behind you, or at least the 19. But Fords are always strong with that horsepower. Chevys, we don't know how they're going to play with the others with the new body style. Toyotas just seem like the silent killers. So I guess that's my pick, and I don't really have a reason for it.
To reinforce your argument, the last time we went to a super speedway, who did we see win?
Yeah, there you go.
Chase Briscoe at Talladega.
Yep. So I guess, maybe it's just kind of hidden in the back of my mind. Why not have him go do it again? But those noses for Chevrolet, they make me nervous with pushing. So we'll see.
Well, we'll see, because that's something that changed in the offseason, a little bit of a tweaked body style for the Chevrolets. But to counter that, I'll just say it's hard to imagine them getting worse from a pushing at super speedway standpoint.
That is fair for the bow tie fans out there. So I think we can leave it at that. I know you've got a lot to do to get ready, and we've got a full prep podcast next week for Echo Park Speedway's Auto Trader 400. It's going to be a fun one. Tyler, best of luck getting ready, and I hope you have a few hours to enjoy the Daytona 500 this weekend.
We'll carve out some time for sure. Thank you.